Hello, namaste, and good evening, folks, and good morning to you, sir. Uh, I'm Dr. Amit Bhatti. Today, on the Indian Academy of Neurology talk show, we have a very, very special guest with us, Dr. Dileep Yavagal. Although this name needs no further introduction, no formal introduction, still for the uninitiated, मुझे सूरज को दिया दिखाने का काम करना पड़ेगा. So, Dr. Dileep Yavagal is currently Professor of Clinical Neurology and Neurosurgery at Jackson Memorial Hospital and Miami Miller School of Medicine in Florida. He's the Director of Intervention Neurology and Co-Director of Endovascular Neurosurgery. He has done fellowships in neurocritical care from Columbia Medical Center, New York, and interventional neuroradiology from UCLA. He has authored more than 200 articles, publications, chapters, guidelines that all of us read. I can go on and on about his stellar academic career, but today we are not going to do that. We all know. We are going to have a glance at his story, at his journey. Know more about just Dileep Yavagal, and know what the secret ingredient that made him what he is. So let's have some fun. I welcome you, sir.
Thank you so much, Amit. I namaste and a good night to you. I know you're staying up and doing this. As I said to you, this is very exciting. I certainly don't consider myself worthy of any major interview per se, but on the other hand, it's great to share, a little bit of my story and really talk to you. So very happy to be here.
So am I, sir. I can't express how excited I am to interview you. So let's start. And my first question to you is, how do you describe your childhood? You are from Nagpur, so your early days in Nagpur. So please share something about that, sir.
Yeah, my earliest memories actually are, climbing a tree to pluck some mangoes in Kapar Kheda, which is a suburb of Nagpur, and this monkey climbing on my back because I plucked a mango. So it was a fun childhood, and then I went to St. Francis de Sales in Nagpur, and the city uh, is the favorite place in my world, the city of Nagpur, because it really allowed for a very relaxed and very there was lots of space. In fact, I still remember there were actually not no traffic lights, even though it was a city. So I'm dating myself, but the school had a major impact on me. Very idealistic, with a lot of great goals for everyone to follow as a student. So yeah, I really have a wonderful memory of the childhood days, and everybody was very carefree and eager to be friends. So it was really really nice, despite the fact that we were all competitive as we grew older. But it was a really fun childhood growing up in Nagpur.
So, sir, one of your friends, Mr. Chatterjee, I got to talk to him, and he told me that you are very good in elocution, and you used to win prizes in that. And I also got to know that you are an outstanding NCC cadet. You are very good at target practice. So, how come you have come to this profession and didn't pursue
That's a great question. I have to say that even now, as my son is starting college, I wonder about all the possibilities that a young person has, and I had. So I have to say that the opportunities that came along, including elocution and NCC, were wonderful and really have shaped me to what I am today. Elocution really took away any fear of public speaking, and that, as you know, for a researcher, for a scientist, and for a physician, is such a great skill to have. I mean, I really feel energized when I am in public, which is, which is not necessarily good for the public sometimes, but but on the other hand, I really look forward to speaking in public, and of course, the real thing is that one can impart and share things that could hopefully have value for others if you're able to speak well and you can hold people's attention. So the elocution was fantastic. I still remember when I first started, it was hard, but the teachers, I mean, they would make me stand there for 2 hours and repeat and repeat and repeat. And then NCC was great because National Cadet Corps. I mean, I really was not a very strong, physical guy, and NCC really made me focus. I still remember there was a rock climbing thing in one of the camps, and I couldn't even get to the first step, and then I knew that I had to do more. So the discipline and the and the mind body combination that NCC does was good, and I think that allowed me to be a good proceduralist. So yeah, so it was it's been great to have those influences.
And how come how did you came to the medical profession? I mean, tell us about your journey through KM, your residency, any particular incident that would stand out. Uh,
Yeah, that's a great question. So my father is he's retired now, but he's a chemist, and he worked in the water treatment plants. He led the water treatment centers in various thermal power stations, and so he was not a doctor, and then my mom is a housewife, and I did not have an immediate family member who was a physician, but I felt drawn from a very early time. I think even like fifth or sixth grade, to the profession. Whenever I would visit the doctor myself as a patient, I would really feel this attraction, and I think that is yeah, that is pretty common for most of us who do this. But as I grew up, one of the earliest memories I have is studying. Actually, it's so interesting how everything comes to a circle. But studying the axon and being just fascinated by saltatory conduction,
yeah.
how the electrical impulse travels. And I was like, this is really it. I mean, I did not think I would be a neurologist or anything like that, but I wanted to pursue biology and be a physician. And KM, was just an amazing opportunity. And the best memory I have of medical school that I would love to share with you is asking in the first rotation in second year, the first clinical rotation. I was like, I had this amazing general medicine attending consultant, and I said, "Madam, ये thrombolysis देते हैं MI में. You give this thrombolytic drug. I'm reading about it in pharmacology. Why can't you give it in stroke?" And this was 1980, 1990. And she looked at me and she's like, let me think about it. Because, there wasn't at least any talk then, at least in India, of giving thrombolysis for stroke. And then she was like, I think, the brain might bleed. And I was like, okay. And I kind of left it at that. But I think these opportunities to really think about the next steps and in helping patients are my best memories. I mean, medical school really, especially in India, we just see so many patients, and I mean, of course, you see them everywhere, all around the world, but
Yeah,
those are my best memories.
come to do interventions and stroke interventions. I mean, like since your second MBBS days, you are so curious and about stroke and its treatment. No wonder you are doing. I mean, you are the champion in the field.
It does seem like when you look back, there are time points where your brain gets attracted to certain things.
So now I'll move to something more personal, sir. Tell us about your family. How did you meet your wife?
Yeah, I'm very blessed. I have a brother who is a software engineer, and then my own family, my own nuclear family. My wife is a urogynecologist, Dr. Sujata Yavagal, and I'll tell you how we met. It's actually pretty interesting. And my son is in college. He's pursuing engineering. So he
Oh,
did not get attracted to medicine like I did. His name is Rohit, and my daughter is about to be 13, Risha, and she's in seventh grade, and she seems to be at least talking. She explained angioplasty to the class the other day without anybody asking her. So it was. We'll see
she has
how
some
that
inclination towards the medical
goes.
profession.
Right. Yeah, so I met my wife in KEM. I
Oh,
met Sujata in KEM, and I think this is going to be okay. What I'm going to tell you, when she's from Indore,
oh,
and she and her brother, Dr. Rajesh Mule, who's a neurologist, moved for Rajesh moved for his DM, and Sujata moved for her MD, and I noticed her right away when she started, and initially I thought they would hang out a lot, Rajesh and Sujata, and I thought they were boyfriend and girlfriend. So I was like, yeah, ये भी chance नहीं है, this like I have to just admire her from far.
uh,
And then he came to the neurology ward when I was doing my neurology rotation with
oh,
Rajesh,
okay.
and she said, "Have you seen my brother?" I said, "That's it. Your brother is my best friend. I'm very happy to take you to find your brother for you."
Okay.
So that's how we met. I have to say that Rajesh played Cupid for us,
Oh,
and
so who proposed whom? I mean,
actually, it's funny. She proposed to me. She
oh,
still is. We had the March strike, and
okay.
that's allowed us to get close. It was 95.
Uh,
We had time to hang out and date, and yeah, it was pretty nice.
so, sir, coming to Mars strikes, I also got engaged in one of those strikes, and I did most of my shopping for my wedding in those strikes. So, I think in Maharashtra or in India, I think residency is so hectic. You get time only during those strikes. All of
That's
us
true.
used to say that once every 6 months you should have a strike for 2 to 3 days.
Yeah. No, it's funny.
So, sir, was it always planned that you would go and settle in US, or was there a time when you had a thought of coming back to India and starting your practice here? I mean, why did you move to US?
Yeah. No, that's a really good question, Amit. I was attracted to the U.S. from a very young age, and it's weird for a boy coming from Nagpur. Not that Nagpurians don't dream big, but on the other hand, I think I would read stuff in the papers that would make me really pretty excited about the way America was and stuff like that. But as I went to medical school, actually, even as I was preparing, I actually wanted to come to the US for medical school.
Oh,
And I looked into it and I realized there was no way, there's no scholarships. You have to have a lot of money to do undergraduate and then, apply for medical school. So I certainly continued with my education in India, but the big motivation was really biomedical research. That is the single most driver, because I could see that I would be very successful as a physician in India, and be in my own country, be with my own people, but then the attraction of biomedical research was very strong. I knew I couldn't do a PhD, along with medical school in India. But even as a non PhD, one could pursue research in the US with clinical practice. And that was really the biggest motivator for me. And it's really a huge privilege, really, that I am able to pursue actually translational basic research along with, clinical practice in the university. So that really was the big motivation.
And then, sir, you after your residency in neurology, then you chose neurocritical care, and then ultimately now you are into neurointervention. I mean, what made you choose these subspecialties? I mean, neurology means the I think when you were there, I think intervention was not such a big thing. Maybe with the mechanical thrombectomy and devices, there is now a big boom. But what made you choose that?
Yeah, yeah. So I got a very, very a major opportunity by getting into the neurology residency at Harvard, at Mass General and Brigham, and I have these very clear memories of wheeling patients into the angio suite. So this was basically 1998, where the radiologists, neurointerventionalists, were taking some patients to intraarterial thrombolysis. And immediately, because I had considered interventional cardiology as a possible pathway, but ultimately chose neurology, I asked my program director the very next morning. I was on call. I took this patient, and then this is the best stuff about residency and education in the U.S. is you can just call up your program director. There is no need to
Barrier.
hesitate. And I said, Walter, and this is Dr. Koroshets, who's now the head of NINDS in the U.S. And I said, Walter, why can't I train in neurointervention and do the intraarterial thrombolysis myself? And he's like, okay, we need to meet, we need to talk. But it was love at first sight, I have to say. I actually had written in my application to Harvard that I wanted to do ALS research, and certainly I was sincere about it. I again, with the biomedical research in mind, ALS is such a big holy grail that if one can solve and help amyotrophic lateral sclerosis and try to disease modify that disease, it's a big goal for any researcher. But as soon as I saw the possibility of modifying stroke and how you could do it at the bedside, I knew. And it's interesting that you ask about the fact that really there wasn't much intraarterial thrombolysis going on. But not only that, there was only one neurologist who did neurointervention, and that too he had been trained by cardiologists, and that too he was being restricted, Dr. Camilo Gomez at that time. So it was one of these things where you have no idea about how this could go. And in fact, my seniors at Harvard said, man, you can do anything now. Like, you're going to get trained from the best place and you can do anything. Why do you want to do something where you may not have a job? Like, what are you going to do after doing neurointervention as a neurologist? So it was definitely a risky decision, a really risky decision, but very exciting. I mean, can you imagine if you're a young trainee and you've thought about stroke, and there is this possibility that you can actually like reverse paralysis. I mean, it was like amras in front of you and you had to eat,
Yes, sir.
even if it had poison in it, you
Yeah,
can't resist.
you can't. Same here, sir. I had witnessed my first mechanical thrombectomy case during my DM, and that was the time I decided that I have to do it. I mean, the results were so gratifying. This was a young chap with basilar artery thrombus. So he was
Right.
defibrillating, and just after the thrombectomy, within 2 hours, the patient was extubated and he was able to move. So that was it was amazing. I mean, I cannot describe that feeling. So coming to the next question, sir, neurocritical care and intervention both are, I mean, quite hectic specialities. Always keeps you on your toes. And how do you deal with or avoid the burnout? I mean, how do you pursue some art, some hobby that I mean keeps you interested or helps you in your professional sphere somehow?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. And when I first started to read about burnout, I was like, "What is this? What is burnout?" You know, we are champions. We don't talk about burnout, but it's real. And I have to say that I was probably reaching burnout, and the pandemic kind of helped me avoid it. And it's so I actually did neurocritical care for the first 5 or 6 years, and then because I established a basic science lab doing intraarterial stem cells in animal models of stroke, I cut out neurocritical care and just did the lab research and neurointervention. That's what I do now. But even then, I was on call every other week and weekend for 10 years. And that definitely, without me realizing, burnt me out. Not that I lost interest or anything, but I think it's not good for your mental health or your physical health to have that kind of call schedule. Even if you may not be operating all the time, just being on call like that is not healthy beyond your training years. So I think what's really helped me, and the pandemic, with all the traveling slowing down and the being able to see patients on Zoom, and I mean, our procedures slowed down only off and on, like you guys, but the procedures have continued. But it allowed some mental space to even take up uh, hobbies. I always wanted to. I played badminton at the university level. I represented KEM GS Medical School in badminton, and I couldn't really take it up here. So I had been thinking of tennis, and I've taken it up, and I now play it almost 3 to 4 days a week.
Oh,
So
that's
that's yeah. No, I really think that for all physicians or really any busy professional, having a adult sport is so great for on it's so healthy. So that's what I do, and yeah. So that's been great.
Sir, you mentioned about stem cell therapy. So I had promised my audience that during the show I'll strictly be non-academic, but I just can't hold back myself from asking you about your two favorite initiatives. Tell us more about MT 2020 and Recover Stroke Trial and the research that you are doing in stem cell therapy.
So I'll start with recover stroke and intraarterial stem cells, and that's the chronology. And really, I'd never planned to do MT 2020. I'd never really thought I would do any public health stuff. I never had a background. But let's start with intraarterial stem cells. I wrote a chapter with Dr. Seth Finkelstein, who is a big name in regenerative neurology and stroke, actually stroke basic research at the Mass General. And the chapter was on cell therapy in stroke. And not that I had a burning interest, but your professor asks you to write a chapter with them, you take it up, and then I didn't think that I would necessarily pursue it, because it's a pretty complex topic, and there wasn't like a lot of trials going on. But I developed a large animals stroke model, an endovascular stroke model at UCLA. So that was my basic research interest, is stroke modeling, and I did 6 months in a lab in Brigham in during my residency, doing the rat MCAO model. But then there was a real lack of large animal models that were endovascular. So Dr. Fernando Vinuela at UCLA mentored me to create a dog model that was endovascular and not surgical. And so when I finished, I wanted to have a lab, but I did not have a therapy in mind to test. And when I came to Miami, they had just established the Stem Cell Institute. So I set up a meeting with the chief of the Stem Cell Institute, who is a cardiologist, Dr. Josh Hare. And within our first meeting, he said, "You have to be a faculty in the Stem Cell Institute." I was like, "I'm just an assistant professor. I'm not sure." But he, took me under his wing, and I learned a lot about stem cells. And the beauty of uh, stem cells is they especially the adult stem cells, which is what I use, is they are non-controversial as opposed to the embryo and fetus stem cells. But these are from the bone marrow. But they act more like drug factories. So you can, and they are acting in response to tissue injury rather than you just injecting. They will release exosomes that contain anti-inflammatory molecules and anti-apoptotic molecules. And once I learned about that, I was convinced that this is a very, promising avenue to pursue. And so in 2009, I established my small animal lab. And in 2010, I was very lucky to get a $3 million grant to have a dedicated animal angio suite and an animal MRI, along with others. It was a joint grant with cardiology and orthopedics. But I was able to start the large animal model in 2010. So it's been pretty amazing to be able to translate this approach, and we have very promising results. In fact, our paper with all the large animal work is just going in for review. So it's and then recover stroke was an opportunity I got as I was talking about my stem cell results in the lab. It was a clinical trial of autologous bone marrow stem cells from the patient's own bone marrow given intraarterially. So this company got an FDA IND investigation approval, and they asked me to be a co-PI along with Sean Savitz, and we showed that it was safe in 48 patients. So the big next step, and I don't want to get into any big details, but is to do a phase 2 trial with close to 250 patients to really prove what we are seeing in the animals. It's very promising and quite safe. MT 2020 really is a result of the fact that my chairman, Dr. Ralph Sacco, who most of you know, is a world's leading stroke epidemiologist, and he recruited me. I met him in Colombia during my neurocritical care fellowship, and he moved to Miami as a chairman, and he recruited me, and I've been deeply influenced by his work, even though I didn't necessarily directly pursue epidemiology, but I saw while being on the committee of the research committee that stroke registries that Dr. Sacco established in Florida were very powerful ways of increasing access to care and increasing access to quality of care. So coming from India, I immediately felt that could I not apply this globally and really use public health approaches. And I educated myself on public health interventions. And one of the best things, I'll just share this, is to consult as many experts as you can, and you become an expert. It's not that's the way everything works, and people are so generous. They really I think I one of my friends who's the vice dean of the business school here, Dr. Arun Sharma, he does a lot of work in health access. So anyway, we launched it. By that time, I was the past president of SWIN, and I had a little bit of power and clout to say, I want to start this initiative through SVIN. And people were looking at me sideways. They're like, you don't want to do another clinical trial? Why are you doing this thing that may not never happen? But it's grown to 90 regions and in all over the world, and India is doing amazing. So it's been a fantastic initiative to pursue.
I'm part of that India Central Group, so
Absolutely, absolutely. No, it's the impact that public health initiative can have for so many patients is really amazing.
definitely. So, sir, this is something different I would like to ask. So, if you can go back in time, do you think you would have done something differently? So any
Yeah, I
particular
would have I would have been a scientist. I would have not been a physician, even though I love treating patients.
okay.
I I mean, I'm actually, I didn't prepare this answer. As soon as you said it, I was like, I have to be honest, because and I did think of a PhD even in India, but there is really you can't make much money. And I have to say though, I did a TI rotation in TIFR
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was just going to ask
during
you,
my
Tata
internship.
Institute of Fundamental Research, you were a part of.
Right. And believe me, it was an amazing 6 months of experience in molecular biology of the malaria parasite, Plasmodium falciparum. Basically, that work contributed to the malaria vaccines that have been made. I mean, not mine. I just was a visiting student, but that work was tremendous. But I realized that even though I'm saying that I would have been a scientist, I found it very isolating. I immediately wanted to again sort of be with patients. So I guess I couldn't make up my mind. But I also feel that there is a lack of or there was a lack of this culture of science and scientific research, and if I had that from early on, I think it's so tough to go very very deep, and really change some of the fundamental things, as a physician scientist. I mean, you just have so much. You have a limited time, but I mean, I think I'm saying that more to just sort of answer the question. I really am very happy and that I'm doing what I'm doing, where I can go back to the patients, go back to the lab, go back to the patients, and of course I can only do this because of my team. There is a whole PhD team in the lab that does a lot of the work. I may have the ideas, but anyway, so yeah, I think that and the one other thing I did want to share, this answer is prepared because I thought about it, is I would have done more math. I dropped maths in after 10th, which you can do, even now I think you can do. But I realized, not just because of the statistics, but I think that everything, I mean, life is math. And yeah, art, science, everything is math. I tell my kids, they look at me like, Dad, what are you talking about? But I think I would have done more math. I even dream, even now that you can do all these courses online, that I'll go back and do some more calculus and math and apply it. But anyway, so those are the two things I would say.
Now, sir, who, or I would say, what drives you the most? I mean, the who are the most influential persons in your life?
Yeah, I mean, my family, of course, and I have to say that my mother, even as a housewife, really instilled this idealism in me from a very young age, and I know my friends were hated me for that. They're like, "What are you talking about? Like, just enjoy life, man. What are you talking about this idealistic stuff?" But that helps, as you know, with being able to really push towards goals that are hard. So my mother really has been a major influence, and even to this day, she'll say, "Okay, so when are you curing stroke?" And my dad really instilled a pursuit of hunger to pursue excellence. He was the first in our family to go abroad to Russia in the late 70s, and I could really sense this influence, that I should pursue excellence. And then I have to say that in KEM, Dr. Dilip Karnad, he I mean, without him, I wouldn't be here, because I did a 320 patient randomized clinical trial during MD.
Oh,
That is one of my most cited papers,
oh,
which is not neurological. It
okay,
is metoclopramide in prevention of nosocomial pneumonia.
okay.
And I think that was singularly influential in helping me get into Harvard. They saw the paper. I had when I got to the US, I started working on publishing it, and it got into critical care medicine. So Dr. Dilip Kanad has been a huge influence. I'm very lucky to keep in touch with him still. And then Dr. Fernando Vinuela, he set this stage for my career. I was the first interventional neurologist. I mean, I was the first neurologist to train in neurointervention in UCLA, and he literally put his arm around me, and when I went for interview, and he said, "We are very lucky that you're interviewing with us." And I was like, man, nobody gave me an interview, and you're saying that that you're lucky to have me interview. And he just and as I said before, he helped me build the canine stroke model. And but more than that, I think he really embodies. I still talk to him regularly. This very pure approach to life. I learned from him where the positivity gets you ahead in any situation, however tough it may be. And then he always said, okay, you may have three cases, but it's one case at a time. Okay, one case at a time. Focus. Just think about this thing. Your fellow can address the other issue, but like one case at a time. So he's a big influence. And of course, so many others. I mean, so many others. I have to say, I can't say that Dr. Miller Fisher is my mentor or was my mentor, but I was very lucky that he was teaching at 89. No, he was 86 when he was 86 years of age, Dr. Miller Fisher at Mass General, and he would do every Monday clinic. I still remember. And so I can't call him my mentor, but he obviously influenced anybody he touched. He was such a genius. And I went to him when I decided on neurointervention, and I said, Dr. Fisher, I want to ask you, I want to do neurointervention. What do you think? Am I making a big mistake? And he said he had this very characteristic style. He would take these pauses, this long pauses, but you could tell his eyes were intense. And he said, "That's a chestnut that is hard to crack." I still remember. So yeah, no, I have to say I've been very lucky with great mentors.
So, sir, I'll have quick rapid fire.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so, Hollywood or Bollywood?
Bollywood, no question.
Favorite actor?
Amitabh Bachchan, it's hard to
Favorite
beat
movie?
that. Sorry.
Favorite movie?
Favorite movie is Sholay, but I have to say that Andhadhun recently really is a different genre, but I was just like blown away by it.
Scent Retriever or Aspiration?
Stent Retriever, and I was proven right in my thinking by the recent assist registry.
Okay, okay. Uh, Favorite tourist destination?
Italy, it's a place that I would go 100 times. Apart from, of course, India, I go to India every opportunity I get, but Italy is an amazing destination.
Favorite cuisine?
I mean, Indian. I can never have enough Indian food, but you get nowadays everywhere you get such great variety of cuisines. I have to say that if I had to pick one, it's actually Vietnamese, where you have this incredible mix of both spice and some exotic, vegetables and meat and all this. So yeah, yeah, Vietnamese. I would say if I had to pick one.
So, sir, finally, I can go on and on. I mean, like, if this time would not have been a barrier. So, just last question, sir. Are there any life lessons from your vast experience that you would now want to share? I mean, like, do's and don'ts for the young generation of aspiring neurologists and interventionists? Uh,
Yeah, again, it's uh, something that each of us are um, we come across these opportunities and these circumstances, and I can only share what I think really propelled me forward and made me happy. And I would say that not to give up your idealism is critical because at every step, you face this cynicism, or you can become very cynical. कि ऐसा तो, it's only in movies or books. Just regular life is really nothing that great. But if I had not thought that I could really work on curing something, which is again, if you've read this book, Doctors,
Yeah,
they
maybe
talk
Eric
about, yeah,
Segal. Eric Segal.
yeah, Eric Segal, yeah.
Wonderful book.
It-
Wonderful book.
right. And I still remember the first chapter. The dean or whoever says, "Do you know that there are cures only for 5 to 10 diseases
Yeah,
out
yeah.
of the out of the many thousands?" I was like, okay, that's it. That's what I'm going for. I want to cure something. So I
Exactly.
think idealism is the it's the well, let me just use a metaphor, a protein of your work. I think it really gives you the strength and the backbone to do good work. And I think taking risks early on is really important, because the world is built on risk takers, right? We wouldn't. The world progresses because of risk takers. If the first person who built the skyscraper didn't think that he would be arrested because something is going to fall and he was going to be behind the bars, we would not have had tall buildings.
You have to take
I
the
think,
leap, I think. Yeah.
yeah. And I think, lastly, I mean, it's not the last thing. It's the most important thing is integrity. Um, I feel that just being honest with yourself helps you be honest with everyone, with your scientific data, with your patients. I can try with a 50% chance of reversing your paralysis, but I really, I fail 50% of the times. And I know all of us do it, but it's sometimes very tempting to, to leave integrity aside. But I think that's the only way one can live a happy life. And the last thing I'll say, and there are so many things, but I feel that what has really been amazing for me is connecting with people. I connected with you today, and we've been talking for the last few days.
Yeah.
I feel that it's so powerful to make connections, to network, to do things together with like-minded people. Because often hard work is lonely,
Yeah. Yes.
and if one can find friends to do things, they become easier, and they become of higher quality.
Yes.
Everybody's thinking comes in, and
So
that's,
it's like a mega mind. Yes.
right, crowdsourcing, however you may call it. And that's another thing that I actually, after I started MT 2020, I kept seeing that it's so powerful
So
to
powerful.
have a global alliance,
Lines. Exactly.
and meeting of the minds. So yeah, I would say that those are the things I would like to share. I'm feeling like
So
I'm no longer a young kid. I need to share some life lessons.
no, sir. It's age is just a number. I mean,
Right.
I'm so
Absolutely.
happy to for this opportunity Ian gave to me to interview you. This experience is, I mean, I cannot describe it in words. It was a pleasure talking to you, sir.
Amit, you're too kind. You're a superstar interventionalist already
Oh,
in
I'm
Nagpur.
blushing
And
actually.
no. It's I've seen your work. Thanks for sharing your cases
Yeah,
on
thank you so
social
much.
media, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's terrific to see the growth that's happening in interventional neurology,
Yeah.
and you're one of the leaders. So it's a real pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I wanted to share something that's been a major part of my career journey. Is I had the opportunity to call the meeting for the founding of SVIN, the
Oh,
Society of Vascular and Interventional Neurology. I was only 2 years into my practice in Albany, New York, but we were about 14 of us who were trained by then with fellowships, and there was the sense that the radiology societies at that time and neurosurgeons were not going to necessarily advocate for us. So the question was, ki, how come 14 people can found a society?
yeah.
But I really was convinced, and this is another part of this idealism that makes you take these risks. That yes, this is the right thing to do, therefore it must be done, even though it's only 14 people. And look where SVIN has grown. We are more
Now it's
than
a big thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we are more than 1,000
Yeah.
members, or close to 1,000
Like a
members,
movement
and
now.
we are running the largest peer network stroke campaign in the world. And so that's definitely a big satisfaction to me that I was able to co-found SVIN.
Wonderful.
Amit, I also really wanted to give my heartfelt thanks to the Indian Academy of Neurology and Dr. Nirmal Surya, who has become a friend and colleague over the last couple of years to give me this opportunity to share my story. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. It was pleasure to be with you tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.